All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from, whether you're watching it live or later after the fact, of course. Thanks for joining us. Next month, as you well know, tech enthusiasts will be treated to yet another year of amazing innovations across various industries as a consumer electronics show, otherwise known as CES, will be making its return to Vegas in January of next year. And in lieu of that, we will be providing previews to much of those said products that are either in the early stages as prototypes or are close to making their way to the consumer market in the very near future. Now, with that being said, we will be kicking off these previews starting today by discussing a thermal camera technology from OWI Autonomous Imaging, otherwise known as OWI AI, that will enable cars to not only see warm creatures, of course, being pedestrians, bicyclists, and large animals ahead on the road, but also to be able to identify exactly what they are and to be able to tell the driver to slow down or to stop. And in emergency situations, to also be able to bring the car to a stop or to slow it down. Now, to talk with me about this said product, I will have the chief business operator of OWI AI, none other than Wade Appelman. Let me bring him on now. Give me 1 second. Wade, how are you doing, man?
Good, Brandon. Great to see you. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as I said, we have CES on its way, and so much excitement in terms of what the show has in store. But in lieu of that, I wanted to talk further about the product that you have with this thermal camera technology. So, can you talk about the the genesis of it, if you will, because there is some interesting facts in terms of the what's on the horizon right now with automobiles and what we'll be seeing with automobiles with the camera technology that will be available very soon.
Right, right. So we're excited at CES this year to come out and really talk about something that the industry has been grappling with for a long time, and that's pedestrian safety at night. Um, the world has too many pedestrian fatalities. Worldwide, I think there's 700,000 people killed by automobiles each year. In the United States, there are 7,000 people that are killed, and of those people that are hit by cars, those are 70% of those are at night. So clearly, even though we have sensors on vehicles that are designed for safety, they don't work well at night. And these figures are only going up; they're not going down. So at Consumer Electronics Show this year, one of the things we're trying to highlight to the industry is there's a solution now for pedestrian safety at night, and that's a new type of sensor. Actually, it's not new from a technology perspective, but it's new for wide scale use in automobiles. It's to use, as you introduced in your introduction, you talked about a thermal camera. Thermal cameras see radiated energy or heat that come naturally out of all living objects and frankly all objects. And heat doesn't matter if it's daytime or nighttime, we see it perfectly. And so this will really help to save lives, and that's what we're going to be talking about at this year's CES.
Gotcha. So, in speaking to that, further, you were talking about, what we can come to expect. So, from what I understand, this is going to happen within the next 5 years of or so. Now, good on you of being able to stay ahead of that of that innovation or that
Right.
that let's say the mandate or those things that are going to be standard when it
Sure.
comes to automobiles now. In speaking to that, do you have any further information in terms
Yeah.
of talking about how it's going to differentiate from those standard things that we're going to have in the market, like that will allow your product to be
Sure.
able to find its niche among what's going to become commonplace within that market?
Right. Brandon, you great question in that you asked about upcoming mandates, and let me elaborate a little bit on these upcoming mandates
Please,
for
yes.
pedestrian safety. So, in the United States, the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority, also known as NHTSA, is the government agency that puts rules and regulations on how a car is supposed to perform. They are the organization that years ago mandated seat belts, mandated airbags, mandate crumple zones and safety. The NHTSA has a long history of leading the industry, and frankly, without these mandates, the automobile industry wouldn't implement them. They cost money, and consumers, unfortunately, oftentimes don't pay for safety until they, until it becomes a standard feature in a vehicle, and they start in high end vehicles where you are paying for them, and then eventually they become standard features that you're technically paying for them, but they're included in the cost of that car. They're not options any longer. So the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority came out by direction, actually, of the infrastructure bill that Congress passed about a year ago. They were mandated, Congress mandated NHTSA to look at regulations for pedestrian safety. So NHTSA put out a comment, a document for comment, a notice for proposed rulemaking about 6 months ago now, maybe 9 months ago. And what that mandate did was it started to signal to the industry, excuse me, what that rulemaking comment started to signal to the industry is what we would expect when the mandate becomes out. And it gave industry time to comment. So the things that are in this notice for proposed rulemaking that people have been commenting on are the scenarios that the automobiles have to be tested in. For instance, the amount of light that's allowed to be shining in a scene before the car has to stop by identifying or classifying this pedestrian. So, for example, the amount of light is now only zero point 0.2 lux. So that's almost complete darkness. And in the past, they didn't have that requirement. The car has to be moving at up to almost 40 miles an hour. So you think about it as a human driver, if there's almost no light and you're going at 40 miles an hour, how hard is it to see that object and safely apply the brakes such that you don't hit the pedestrian at a high rate of speed or at all? So this mandate has, or this proposal has been circulating for some time. At the end of August, the comment period closed. Last I checked, they had 1,600 comments come in from the industry. And we expect that, frankly, any day now, the actual mandate will be issued. And what that mandate will say is within a certain amount of time, all cars have to be able to achieve successfully stopping for pedestrians at night under these various environmental conditions. They'll have probably 3 to 4 years from when this mandate comes out to be able to have it implemented in vehicles. And if they don't implement it in vehicles, that car won't be able to be sold in the United States. So we expect, let's just say this mandate comes out in January of 2024. By January of 2027 or January of 2028, all vehicles will have to be able to safely stop at night for pedestrians. And the current technology of regular visible light cameras, radar, and in some cases LiDAR, which are the other sensors, just won't work, or they won't work cost effectively to enable manufacturers to meet this mandate.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I was speaking about it a little earlier, specifically about what the imaging technology that you have will is intending to do in terms of what it will allow the driver to be able to identify. Can you delve a little further into that in terms of, from what I understand, it's going to be able to immediately identify like exactly what it is that
Right.
the driver is seeing. And that you know, it sounds pretty basic, but I know it's not, in terms of having an extensive catalog of being able to identify that many things. So can you talk a bit about that process to be able to ensure that it's
Sure.
accurate and being able to identify what's on the road for the driver?
Right. So to put a little context to people that may be listening that don't really understand automotive driver assist systems or ADAS systems, that's the system that is in the vehicle to safely stop or if it identifies something in front of them. So the way this system works is there's really four functions that a safety system has to do. First, it has to detect, is something there? Hey, is there something in front of me? I don't know what it is yet, but is there something there? Of course, you don't want to hit anything, but you're going to make a decision. Is it a piece of tire on a road, or is it a motorcyclist that is in front of you laying down because you have to know what it is. So the first thing you want to do is detect it. Then you need to classify it. That's that second point I was talking about. What is it? Can you safely apply the vehicle to stop the vehicle? If you're going at 70 miles an hour and you're going into a tunnel, let's just think about this, and it looks like it's a big black object to your safety system, and you slam on the brakes at 70 miles an hour going into a tunnel because your safety system thinks it's a big wall, because that's a false positive. That's called a ghost. Teslas are known to do that. When they're driving down the road, all of a sudden they see you're going into a dark tunnel. It spoofs the camera system and it jams on the brakes. Very dangerous. So you need to classify, what is it? Is it a living thing? Is it a false object? Is it a false detection? You need to classify it. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to know how far it is away. Is it really right in front of you, or is it 100 meters away or 50 meters away? So that's called ranging. And the last thing you need to do is act. So detect something, classify what it is, figure out how far it is, and then act on it. Either you send a beep, hey, beep, 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 you're coming in too fast, or maybe you jam on the brake and you stop automatically. So that's what we have to do. And so we have both at OWL AI, we have the thermal camera, the sensor that is detecting this radiated energy, whether it's in a bright light scenario, for instance, going into a blinding light of a oncoming sun. Imagine sun coming at the car, coming up over horizon, or you're coming out of a tunnel into a bright light. Those are high dynamic range scenes that cameras can't see, or complete darkness, driving down a country road and there's a deer that comes out in front of you. We'll be able to very quickly detect and then classify what it is. But with our software as well, we can do that. And then lastly, we can do ranging. We have some unique technologies that allow us to range to that object. And that's very unusual for a camera-based system, a single camera-based system, a monocular camera, to be able to range to this object. And we do that through convolutional neural networks or artificial intelligence, to be able to figure out, based on pixels, how far an object is away from the camera itself. And when you combine all three of those things together, it's a really unique safety system for the vehicles.
Awesome. So, in speaking further to that, I'm not sure if did you have anything that I know that we're showing it virtually right now, but did you have perhaps like a demo or anything to demonstrate,
Well,
how that might work, at least on a general basis,
I
prior
do I
to?
do have some videos. Brandon, can we try showing a video or two to your audience, or do you
Absolutely,
think that will work?
absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try to see if I can share my screen here. If I go to screen, and it should allow me to uh, window, and I'm gonna pick this window here, and I'm gonna hit share, and I should be sharing this screen here. Okay. And I'm gonna try to do it this way. I'm gonna try to go full screen here. Let's see what happens. And I'm gonna switch my display setting. I'm gonna swap this.
Yep, it's all
Okay.
yours. Go ahead.
All righty. So what I'm showing you right here, I'm going to pause this for a second. You should see the full screen here. And what you see on the left-hand side is the view from of a car. This car happens to be driving down the streets of Las Vegas, so it's very well themed for your CES introduction for 2024. This is the Vegas Strip. And what you see on the left-hand side again is a regular camera image, just what you'd see out of your cell phone or out of a standard camera that's in a car today. On the right-hand side is what you're seeing is a thermal image from one of the OWL cameras. And what we're
Okay.
doing is the colors, thermal generally presents in grayscale, black and white shades of gray. But what we do is when we add ranging, we can add a color wand. And what you see down here is red colors are closer to the camera, orange or purple colors are farther away. And what we're doing here is we're using our computer intelligence, our AI, and we're classifying a car and we're classifying pedestrians. So we're just looking at, is it a car? Is it a pedestrian? We're not trying to classify stoplights or stop signs. We're just looking at pedestrians. And I want to point out these pedestrians in the right-hand side. We have already identified these pedestrians walking across the street. We can see clearly there are 4 of them. But if you look at the image on the left-hand side, and just your naked eye, you really can't make out all of these pedestrians until you're almost right on top of them. So
Right.
if you're trying to turn, and this is not a dark scene, this is a very bright visual scene. But let's just keep rolling through this here as we come on. And I'm going to stop right here. In the image on the right, you see that red bounding box that says PED. That's for pedestrian. And I'm just
Right.
going to kind of keep rolling up. You can't still see that pedestrian in the image on the left, but as I come right in, suddenly I see what's happening. That pedestrian has put himself in a very difficult place to be seen by a traditional automotive system, a radar, a LiDAR, or even a visible light camera. They're wearing dark clothes. They're standing next to a pole. They're standing next to a retro-reflective sign, which would spoof LiDAR. And you probably wouldn't accurately detect. Now, this person is at least safely on the sidewalk, but imagine they're about to walk in front of the vehicle, and you want to be able to track that. We've already also started to identify the pedestrians way back in the back where you can't even make them out in a visual camera. So I think as you can see here, it's really, really important to be able to see these to see these this working in action. I'll give you just another little scene here, just a little test for your viewers. And I know this it's not super easy, but if I asked you how many pedestrians do you see in this one standalone slide, you'd maybe say 2. You might see this person here, and they're kind of have a green coat on, so that pops. And you might see this and kind of identify this is probably a person. But if I told you there were 6 pedestrians, you might say, where are they? And here they are. There's a pedestrian here, there's a pedestrian here, and there's 2 more over here. The thermal sees these because they pop really well, where regular cameras just can't identify them. So we're able to really, with this technology, really demonstrate safety of vehicles at night. And if you have time, I can show you one more video, Brandon. Would you like to see one more?
Sure. And before you hop into that video, I actually have a question too. And that being, as you're showing all of this and identifying like where our actual pedestrians could be in a given scenario, even under the best circumstances. I'm curious, do you have any have you found it interesting in terms of how much what the consumer market is going to look like, rural versus urban, where basically, in the rural environment, you're not going to have as much lighting. You're not going to have, it's going to be very dark. You're going to have dark roads, things of that nature. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, one of our backers at Owl Autonomous Imaging is State Farm Insurance. And one of the reasons that State Farm is interested in investing in us is the insurance industry in the United States spent almost $1.2 billion on deer strike claims alone. Okay. So this isn't about pedestrian safety. It's about lowering the cost of people's insurance as well, because if you can avoid hitting something that is going to damage your vehicle, that is also an advantage. So we will see use cases in dark scenarios in the country when you're driving along a country road. But again, also chaotic urban environments like I showed you in Las Vegas. You're going to see it. And even in the daytime, I gave you that scenario that is well established challenge in autonomous vehicles, where the autonomous vehicle is driving into a tunnel or out of a tunnel, and what's called the dynamic range of the scene is such that think of your own eyesight. You're looking, driving into a bright scenario. You really can't see what's happening on the other side of that scenario, of the construction worker that may be flagging you to stop, or the accident that's about up ahead. And so you're going to see this use case in all scenarios, or chaotic urban environment, as well as evening drive experiences in the country.
Gotcha, gotcha. Mo, you say you had another video, so whenever you're
Yeah.
ready, go ahead.
Well, so I'm showing you this screen here, and this is a test that we did at a test track in Detroit a few months ago. And this is one of the scenes that the scenarios that NHTSA has put into their likely mandate. And this is what's called the oncoming headlight test, with a pedestrian walking across the street in a crosswalk. So just imagine yourself, you're driving in whether it is in any street at night, and there's oncoming headlights in the opposite lane, and somebody's trying to walk across the crosswalk. And I'm going to run a video, and what this video is going to show, and I'll run it probably twice just so you can see it, but I'm going to set the scene. We set up a car on a test track. This is a thermal mannequin. So this is and it's a child size, actually. And it's heated, so it forms the heat signature like a human being. In the left-hand side is an RGB image from the car, and the right-hand side is the OWL thermal camera and our software. You can see on the left-hand side the people watching the test. You can see very clearly the car, and you can see who we jokingly refer to as Little Timmy walking across the street here. And he's 29.5 meters away when we've picked this person up. But I'm just going to run this in real time here, and you can see the synced images. On the left-hand side is what the car sees. The right-hand side is the thermal, and we successfully brake for the target that's in front. This test is set up such that the braking actuation was only occurring by the OWL system. There was no other there was no manual intervention and no other sensor that was used. There is a trained test driver in the vehicle that is trained with a helmet on and everything to not intervene in the event that the car hits the dummy. We stopped 12 out of 12 times. This same test was done by production vehicles that are in the market today by another testing organization. They tested 23 vehicles to see if they would safely stop. Guess how many, Brandon, successfully stopped in all the scenarios?
How many?
One.
Wow. Man.
One. And that was even a little janky in that they had to have their high beams on in order to stop. So the current safety systems in vehicles today, this is from an IIHS report, Institute of Highway Safety. They did the same test in production vehicles and only one passed. Scary.
Very, very, very scary.
So so that is that video there, but I could show them all day long, Brandon. They're kind of fun. You know, we have a lot on our website. If you go to owlai.us, owlai.us, and you look for these videos, you'll find them. You know, this is another really fun one for me. This is driving along a street at night, and all of a sudden you sort of turn, and there's two little deer there, and we fused together RGB cameras, which are color cameras, and our thermal, and that's how we get the color of the stop sign, but we still see the deer at night. So we have all these types of fun videos. Thermal can see in snow, it can see in rain, it can see really well in fog. The problem with thermal that people have had in the past is, you might say, well, why hasn't this been deployed in the past? You know, this is too good to be true. The reason is cost and resolution. Thermal cameras had been used by the military for years, but those cameras were $10,000, $18,000, really super expensive. We're able to get the cost with our technology down to just a few $100s. And the resolution, the amount of pixels that you can put on a target to do classification, hasn't been enough. And so we have over 1 million pixels in our new system camera, and we are bringing the cost down to in automotive volumes to just a few $100s. So we think by 2028 that we've solved one of the biggest technical hurdles out there, which are solving those two problems.
All right, awesome, awesome. Well, Wade, thank you so much for spending some time and sharing what you have in store. I know it'll be available in booth 68, 67 in the West Hall, if I understand.
Perfect.
At
Hey, I hope to
CES.
see you and others coming by here.
All right, excellent. Well, there you guys have it. Again, I want to thank Wade Appelman for hopping on and talking, talking what they have in store over at OWL AI. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there and see you soon. Bye.
Brandon, thanks again.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.